Hold on tight for the next hour. You're entering into a place, a zone called the alternative to the alternative media. It's a place, a special place where even truth seekers fear to tread.
All right, people, let's move like we've got a purpose.
Affirmative.
Okay, glad you're back on the Investigative Journal on this July 4th. Wow, what a holiday. I call it American Dependence Day, July 4th, 2017 day on our calendar this Tuesday. And I guess it's great for Americans to have it fall on a Tuesday. They get 4 days respite from the work that worker bees are doing in America. So anyway, a few things I want to talk to before I get back to second part of my interview with Eric Orion. I always called him Orion. And he gave us some interesting information about his deathbed conversation with Hitler's bodyguard, Otto Skorzeny. So we'll get back to that, but several things I want to talk about. 3 things. First, my pledge drive. And at this particular point, if you can lend a hand anyway, it would be very helpful. You can go to arcticbeacon.com, and you can hit the donate button, and it goes directly to me, the host. And please do, because every now and then we run into financial difficulties. This show is not going to be funded. You're never going to get any advertiser to fund the Vatican story. And so we are listener-sponsored, and please lend a hand any way you can. Secondly, with the help of Nicholas at the radio station, he is importing all of my data and shows and articles from my website at Arctic Beacon to a WordPress site that we're going to revamp, make it more interactive. Basically, it'll be Arctic Beacon over on a new site, and I'm going to trash that old site because it really was about half completed, and I never got to really complete the thing. And this one will be much better, and Nicholas is tutoring me on how to do it, and he's lending a hand himself, so I really appreciate the time and effort that he has put into doing that for me. So we'll tell you where that is tomorrow that you can go to. It's a WordPress site, and maybe at the break I'll get the way you can get there on the internet, and then you'll just know that we're just in the process of getting everything over there. So still Arctic Beacon is up and running, and you can go there. There's about 2 or 3 months worth of shows that I have not put up there, so I'm going to import them over to this new site. Okay, the third thing. I want to talk about local Freemasonry and how I found out about about a story that's really sad. And I spent the day writing a complaint for the Superior Court in Tehama County, that's up north, in a town called Los Molinos. And in that town, there's a Masonic Lodge, the Los Molinos Masonic Lodge. Okay, well, how I got involved with this story is that the lady, okay, excuse me, I had to check on Max, and he's okay. So anyway, a lady basically needed help to file a lawsuit because she has been harassed and hounded in Los Molinos. And let me explain how. So I'm helping her do it in pro per and doing the work for her, and she's going to file the case. And here's what happened. She moved into Los Molinos about 8 years ago, lives on a 1.1 acre parcel, and she's been treated for multiple sclerosis and other depression-related symptoms, as well as mood swings and even suicidal attempts. So she's on a battery of medication. Now, about 8 years ago, she had the interest of raising goats. And so her doctor felt that this would help her. And so she started to raise a goat herd, and it got up to about 15 to 16 goats. And she had a couple horses and also 4 dogs and a couple cats. Well, anyway, for the first 13 months, things went fine. Even though there is a county code in that town, in that place, that states you can only have 1 animal, not counting dogs and cats, per acre of property. Okay? Okay, like I was saying, for the first 13 months, everything was fine. She got along with everybody. Nobody seemed to complain about her goats. And in that area, there's many people that have more animals per square acre than they are required. For example, near her, there's a man on 20 acres who has over 100 sheep, goats, cows, horses, you name it. And, okay, I keep getting interrupted by Max, who's having trouble getting around. But anyway, so there's a lot of people there that violate the code, and it's ignored, like in many laws that government officials, they don't want to enforce them. And so basically things were going great. But after she lived next to Bill Smith, who was the vice president of the Los Molinos Masonic Lodge. And they had a little boundary line dispute, and it didn't involve much property. And she was saying he was encroaching on her property. He was saying she was, and so they didn't get along, so to speak. Now, it could have been worked out simply. But it might be added that there was never any complaint made about a public nuisance of her animals or that she mistreated them at all. Nobody said, there was never any complaints. But because of this boundary line dispute, another one basically pushed and shoved her, threatened to kill her, and then another Masonic member hit her in the face with a flashlight. Now, she went to a lawyer. They were going to file a case. However, and she had talked to the neighbors who were going to testify on her behalf. But when they were getting closer to filing the suit, they found out that the witnesses and her friends were bribed by the Masonic members, some given money, others basically told, don't help that lady or what, something will happen. So they were bullying her. And this went on for a long time. And in 2014, through, I guess, friends in the Department of Health, Code Enforcement, the Board of Supervisors, etc., they lodged a complaint saying her goats were a public nuisance. Now, at the same time, they didn't bother other people who were violating this code. And so you could see there was selective law enforcement here. She didn't do anything she didn't file a case, didn't know how to. And so they ramrodded this thing through the County Board of Supervisors. She was fined $1,200, and she had to get rid of all of her goats. Well, her health started to deteriorate, and even on her doctor's advice, she decided, the hell with it, I'm getting goats. And now she's got about 15 to 16 goats, a number of babies, etc., 1 horse, 4 dogs, and they just filed another action in June to do the same thing they did in 2014. So she has a hearing as of July 27th, which you know what will happen. It's already prearranged before the Board of Supervisors. She's going to be fined $100 starting July 7th if she doesn't comply, and she doesn't want to comply. And so, guess what? I have tried to come to the rescue and going to file a complaint. Now, filing a complaint against a government agency is tricky. There's something called government immunity. But in this case, we can file a lawsuit. And the reason is we're not asking the government to do anything, which you can't ask the government to act. They don't act anyway. Or ask for money damages. Now, isn't that quite appropriate? We give them their money, but if they misuse it, we can't sue them and get it back. But that's government immunity. However, you can sue them if you want to restrain them from acting. And in this case, that's exactly what we want to do. We want to have them stop from doing something they ought not do. Okay. So how do you do that? You can't ask for money damages, so you got to file what's called a declaratory relief or declaratory judgment and injunctive relief. Now, that's allowable in a complaint, but in a cross complaint, but it's allowable in a complaint. That's all we need to know. Okay? So anyway, let me continue. So filing these kind of actions, I'm asking for an immediate stay, and that means that we're going to try to get a hearing on the merits, on the case in controversy, because she can't get a fair hearing with these people. And I've laid it out basically a little bit better than what I've told you, but basically the harassment, the selective law enforcement, etc., and never showing public nuisance or that she mistreated the animals, which she never has. But because of this boundary line dispute, they're out to get her. So let's see what happens. And we're going to file the case in a couple days. So I just wanted you to know that the Masonic Lodge of Los Molinos has been bullying an older woman who has multiple sclerosis. Yes, that's what they're doing. Okay, I got through that, even though Max is up and down, and I'm worried about him, and I'll get into his health condition in another show. But it's been very trying. But anyway, here we go. Got everything off my chest what I wanted to do, and I want to get back to that interview with Eric Orion regarding his deathbed conversation with Hitler's bodyguard. And boy, did he bring up a lot of things. Now, I wonder, looking back on this 8 to 10 years, looking back on this 8 to 10 years, I wonder what he's doing now and if anything new came up. And that's what I'll do when I have some time later in the week. So let's get back to Eric Orion and his deathbed conversation with Otto Skorzeny, Hitler's former bodyguard.
Go ahead. Well, the day of Hitler's alleged suicide, the history books claim that the female SS Nazi pilot, Hannah Reich, flew to the Führer bunker to try to convince Hitler to not commit suicide. Then the history books claim that she was unable to convince Hitler not to commit suicide, so she flew off by herself. That's not actually what happened. Otto Skorzeny was with Adolf Hitler at the Führer bunker the day of Hitler's alleged suicide. And what they did was they shot a Hitler look-alike. Otto Skorzeny shot him between the eyes. They dug a little ditch, poured some gasoline on him, and burned his corpse a little bit. Then Hannah Reich disguised her plane. That was a Fiesler Storch. They painted it white with Red Cross symbols on it. They disguised it as a Red Cross relief plane. And Hannah Reich flew Adolf Hitler and Otto Skorzeny to safety in Salzburg, Austria, where the Vatican quickly hid out Otto Skorzeny and Adolf Hitler until Skorzeny decided to turn himself in to the Americans right at the end of World War II. All right, according to what Skorzeny told me, he was in Hitler, his American...
Let's not gloss over this. You said that the Vatican hid out Skorzeny and Hitler. Is that what he told you?
Yeah, for sure. They had the Jesuit priest at the Vatican, they welcomed the Nazis with open arms, and they gave them all of your cash donations that you gave to the Vatican. People gave them donations. That helped the Nazis escape, all of your cash donations.
Okay, go ahead. So what happened to him after, the Vatican has a history, and it's even in court cases of hiding Nazis. So this is just another one of their boys they're hiding. And boy, the American people just don't want to get it. Go ahead.
Okay, so basically, they hid out Hitler for a while, in the Vatican at different churches all over South America for a while. Then they brought him to America, and they gave him a place to live in Bethesda, Maryland. He stayed at Camp David for a while, and he died after Skorzeny had died, actually. But according to the news reports, William Coates lived to be the oldest man in America, and he died at 114 years old in Bethesda, Maryland. But there's no photos of him anywhere. You look up William Coates on the net, and for some reason, you would think the oldest man in America at the time, they have a photo of him. But for some reason, there's no photos.
If we believe the maxim, the good die young, I would believe Hitler would live to be 114. But did he ever... what did they do? They give them these human growth hormone treatments to keep them alive, or Bush seems to be very healthy at 80. He jumped out of an airplane at 89 or whatever age he is. I don't know. What did they do? How'd they keep him alive for that long?
Well, for one thing, he never really had to work a day in his life after World War II. He was treated like a pampered king. Adolf Hitler, I'm referring to. They gave him vitamin shots, anti-aging hormone shots too, and he was just treated like a king. He was treated like royalty everywhere he went.
I bet you got a lot of Viagra too. He was probably the test Viagra patient.
Yeah, probably.
But when you think about it, the grand picture, and there's so many little questions we could ask here, but the grand story here, what have you come in, learning all this stuff? What is your conclusion about what's happening in America today? in this story about how we can have a president so evil, but yet the stories are so hidden. What do you think? Is there any salvation here? Can we ever get to the truth? The Vatican, Hitler's bodyguard, Skorzeny, George, we got our country in the hands of a maniac. What do you think?
Well, I agree with you 100% on that, Greg. Right now, the country is run by Christian fascists who are basically trying to spread Christianity throughout the world and declare a war on Islam, no matter where that war may be. Basically, they don't care about the rights or the Constitution, or the rights of American citizens. They don't care about the Constitution at all. That's evident. And basically, George W. Bush, the current president, is acting like a dictator. The Supreme Court elected him in 2000, and Bible elected him in 2004. The touchscreen voting with no receipt, and he does whatever he wants. He doesn't listen to Congress or the people. So they're really.
I just wanted to add something or comment on something that he said. Really, these people that are running are not Christians, of course. They may pose as Christians. However, they are satanic, and they work together with Islam. And they create this friction between the two to basically slaughter innocent people. Here we go.
Trying to take away our American freedoms. They want to overturn Roe versus Wade really bad. That's what they're really working hard on. And the next thing they're going to try to do is take away our guns. They're going to tell us some kind of bullshit story that there's terrorists around stealing guns from houses, so they're going to have you turn over all your guns. That's probably going to be the next thing. Another thing they're doing, because the president has this extended war in Iraq, local governors don't have control over their own National Guard. All the National Guard troops that are supposed to be here in America, guarding our nation, are stuck overseas guarding the Iraqis for some crazy reason. They need to be all brought back here and to be able to protect their individual states where they belong. Basically, I think that the whole Bush and Cheney and Gonzalez, it's a joke. They're all Christian fascists, and they're trying to take America down the wrong way. It's not democracy anymore. It's Christian fascism. It's basically just Nazism all over again. They're really trying to create a fourth Reich that Hitler had intended to create all along, and they're working hard at it. The whole Bush family, the public needs to know the truth about the Bush family, that Prescott Bush was a convicted Nazi traitor. That's the president's grandfather. His company, the New York Union Banking Corporation, was shut down by FDR, Roosevelt, and Prescott Bush was arrested for being a treasonous Nazi. He was trading with the enemy, Hitler, during World War II. And the president's father wasn't even born in America, but yet he was able to become the 41st president. Right? So it's crazy. The public needs to know.
What's really crazy about this whole story is that let's go back to the real facts here that we can show beyond your story. And that is, we go to the congressional record, and we can find in the congressional record exactly what you said about the Bush family connection to the Nazis and how FDR and the rest of them seemingly were opposed to that. But what I think really happened was this. That was true. But inside the inner workings of Washington, this was a game they were playing even back then. And the game now has gotten to this point where FDR supposedly being on the Democratic right or the Democratic left and the Bush family on the right, they were all working together. And today, even though the congressional record is there, we have a bunch of traitors in our Congress who will not bring this up, who will not delve into the real truth. And what we have is an extenuation of the same Nazi problem we had back when Prescott Bush was in the front, on the face of things, castigated, but behind the scenes applauded. And this is what we need to do as Americans. Now, your story adds so much more fuel to the fire, and what I mean by that is, this adds the real story behind who this SOB Bush really is. And tell us what happened to you when you started to go public with this story. You were dating his daughter. You were Skorzeny's daughter, that is. Tell us what happened to you, which even adds more truth to what you're saying.
Well, it was around April of 2003. I had sent several faxes to Eli Rosenbaum and Bruce Schwartz. Eli Rosenbaum is the director of the United States Justice Department Office of Special Investigation. Okay, I told him all about my claims and that I had information about wanted SS Nazi war criminal terrorists, and other possible attacks, and I had all their information, the names and phone numbers and addresses, right, and I sent that to him. But actually, I got a call back from someone claiming to be from the U.S. Justice Department. We spoke for a few minutes, and basically they assured me that no, I was wrong, and all these Nazis are dead, and this guy claimed to have been at their funerals. You know, he told me not to send him any more faxes. And so right then I knew, okay, that this guy was definitely trying to hide something. He was full of crap. I knew what the real deal was. All right, the very next day I was over at Skorzeny's house. You know, I was actually listing it for sale at the time. I was leaving the house with Lori, his daughter, my girlfriend at the time. And a car had pulled up behind me and was flashing his lights. And he wanted me to pull over. So I just ignored him for a little bit. And he flashed his lights again. And I thought to myself, okay, this doesn't normally happen. This is some kind of anomaly. So I should be, I should watch out for this guy. You know, I was nervous and everything. So I knew I just called the OSI the day before. And I knew that this information was real and maybe someone would try to kill me. And sure as shit, I pulled over with this car behind me. The guy walked out of his car and towards the back of my bumper. He had something cupped in his hand. It looked like a gun. At that point, I floored it. All right, just to see what his reaction was. And the guy ran back in his car. He chased after us. And I ended up driving through about 3 lanes of traffic. And I came into a Publix shopping mart, you know, a supermarket, a nice public place. And he pulled up next to me, gave me a real dirty look, and he drove off. The very next day after that, he pretended to be a buyer for the house, their house. And he came with a friend of his. So there was 2 guys there, pretending to be buyers, and they just kind of looked me over, and they didn't really say anything. And I recognized the same guy from the day before. It was pretty funny. I guess he thought that I didn't get a good look at him, but I did. But since then, there really haven't been any attempts on my life. Yeah, I've been telling the story to as many people as I can, and putting articles in the newspaper, so I think the more public I go with this story, the less inclined the government is to try to take me out.
Yeah, exactamente. You got it right on the head there. Once in the beginning, they give you that initial threat. And then, if it doesn't work, if it doesn't back you off, what happens then is, you go public, you stay safe, and you keep telling your story, because the real key is this exposition. Satan hates to be exposed. And you are exposing what Otto Skorzeny told you truthfully on his deathbed. Now, what they can do, and listen, I would tell you this is such a great story, but what they'll do is basically deny that Skorzeny even lived and create you into this kind of hallucinogenic, crazy person living in Florida. And that's the key. But tell us really what your former girlfriend and your mother did, and her mother did after they understood what you had uncovered.
Okay, we will get to that. You're going to want to know what his girlfriend was thinking about this, as well as his girlfriend's mother during this whole affair. And I am definitely going to check up on what he's doing today. Almost 10 years have passed. My, how the time goes by. I was thinking about that today. And by doing a story like this, I try to put myself back exactly where I was on this date. What was it? May 23rd, 2007. I was in Nederland, Colorado. I remember the house. Moose was a young pup of 4, my dog. Max hadn't even been born yet because he was born August 7th, 2007. And it was snowing. And I remember I really enjoyed that town for a while. Nederland, Colorado. Check it out. It's a beautiful little town above Boulder, up the Boulder Pass, which is a beautiful ride. And we'll be back in 3 minutes on the Investigative Journal.
The program you are listening to is 100% sponsored by you, the listener, on this First Amendment Rights Media channel. You will notice that there are few commercials on this radio network. There's a good reason for that. Corporate advertising dollars come with strings that limit program content. So without your help, these programs cannot continue on internet or our several affiliates. If you benefit by the educational law programs, we ask you to give. If you are admonished or nurtured by the Bible and ministry programs, we ask you to give. If some voice a cause that you are passionate about, we ask you to give. If you believe in any of these, we ask you to support them as you would a missionary on a continual basis, as if giving a tithe for missionary radio. These programs are not commercially viable and must be supported by those faithful to the cause of truth. Look for the button to sponsor your favorite programs at our listen and schedule pages on the internet. Then, when you subscribe, we will send you the last quarterly MP3 CD of that program immediately, and continue to do so with each new quarter. We will also give you unlimited archive access to all of our programs. We're asking you to give much less than a tithe, so that you may also send support directly to a particular program host, cause, and anywhere else the Spirit may lead you. Do all to the glory of our God and Creator, for His holy nation, the only kingdom that will last forever. Thank you for listening.
Visit crosstheborder.org, CROSS, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of Nicholas Arthur's new book titled When the Third Temple is Built. That's crosstheborder.org. When it comes to prophecy today, much of the evangelical Christian world has their eyes on Israel, waiting and watching to see when the third temple will begin to be built. The plans are drawn. The Jewish people are eager. Most evangelical Christians today believe that the rapture will happen before the third temple is built. Hi, I'm Michael Eugene. I was taught that Daniel's 70th week was in the future. Is that really what the Bible teaches? Have we searched the scriptures and found this to be true? Why is it so important for a re-established Israel to build a third temple in Jerusalem? Is it necessary to build a temple on the same location already occupied by the Dome of the Rock? Is it necessary for sacrifices to take place in the temple on Temple Mount? Is there really a rapture followed by 7 years of tribulation? What is the New Testament temple? Can we identify history and prophecy? Who is the first beast in Revelation chapter 13? Who are the 7 kings in Revelation 17? I have asked all these questions, and I have found Nicholas Arthur's new book, When the Third Temple is Built, answers all these questions and more using Scripture to interpret Scripture. The Bible says that no prophecy of Scripture is of any private interpretation. Nicholas shows us in his new book, When the Third Temple is Built, how the Bible interprets prophecy and not man's private interpretation. Visit crosstheborder.org, CROSS, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of Nicholas Arthur's new book titled When the Third Temple is Built. That's crosstheborder.org.
The following program is labeled dangerous and off limits by the supreme Jesuit command. But stand tall, people. Listen up, and you may just learn something.
Oh, dear Lord Jesus, this ain't happening, man. This can't be happening, man. This isn't happening.
Okay, we are back for the second half hour of the Investigative Journal on this American Independence Day. Wow. Greg, that's a good one, isn't it? Yeah, I like it. I don't feel independent over there. I feel, in fact, I have this feeling every time I live in a foreign country, I feel more free than when I live in my own country. Because they don't have all these crazy laws here. You know? Oh, I mean, it's not perfect. Nothing's perfect, but sure nice not to have a cop following you looking for, wow, did he tag his car? And they'll pull you over. And then there's no cameras, so you don't have to worry about stoplights. And here, people drive, they don't even have license plates on. I've seen at least 10 American cars. Their plates are California, but there's no tags. And then you get the Baja plates, and cops don't seem to really care about it. They really don't. I mean, I was watching a cop follow one of those cars, and they don't care if he doesn't have plates or not. What are you going to do? Then when I was driving home today, as I turned into my little dirt road, there was a couple horses. Guy was working on one of his horses, pulling another one, young one, and he takes them down to the beach. And then they charge some money so you can take nice rides. I'm going to go on one because they're not that expensive. Okay, horses look pretty nice, too. Well fed. Okay, so where did I leave off? Boy, this story's getting interesting, isn't it? And we'll get to it in a minute, but don't forget to go to my website at arcticbeacon.com and push that donate button so we can keep this show going. And by the way, Nicholas at the radio station's migrating all of my shows over to a new website that we're going to create, and it's up now. It's called Greg Anthony's Journal with no apostrophe, .wordpress.com. And now it's in its infant stages. There's some articles up there already. The last 2 or 3 months I have to post. And we're going to give it a whole new facelift. And Nicholas is going to tutor me on this and make it a little bit more dynamic and interactive so that you can actually follow what I'm doing and you can actually interact with me more. My old site was, boy, it's just a very sad story about what happened to it, but I'll get to that another day. Let's get back to Eric Orion. I pronounced it correctly. And his deathbed conversation with Otto Skorzeny. And now we're finding out what his girlfriend and his girlfriend's mother were thinking about all this.
Well, I was there with their house. It was probably the same night, I think. Yeah, it was about the same night when there was an attempt on my life. I was back there with their house, and the mother received a phone call. This was Skorzeny's widow. All right, she's still alive. And she got someone called her up on the phone, and she was in the kitchen talking, and she turned white all of a sudden, and then she left the room. And the next morning, she accidentally fell on a pair of shears, like in the garden, and hurt herself. But I think she was actually attempting to kill herself when she got tipped off that I knew what was going on. Her daughter, Lori, never really knew too much as far as I know until I actually got my copyright on the book, which was the book of the Bush Connection. I guess it was around September or so. They tipped her off that I, in fact, did write a book about her family. She didn't know about it, my girlfriend, that her father, she didn't know that her father gave me all this information about her family. And so she ended up breaking up with me for some other reason. I guess she was a little worried. She wasn't sure what I was going to do with this information. But that's the story behind that.
Do you think she ever really knew who her father really was?
I think for sure. I think so. I think they're all good. The mother, for sure, I think she's part of it too. She probably works for the CIA, for all I know.
And so since then, since this is broke, you haven't had contact with them?
She sent me a birthday card about a year ago, I think. That's about it.
And they're still living in the same place?
They're still in the same place. I'm not, but they are.
They are. Interesting. And that would be, I'll tell you what we should be, not to protect the innocent, but somebody should get to them and talk to them, try to talk to them again, and see what their story is. And I'm sure they're protected by the CIA, but that's a real key to this story to keep it moving, because what is the Bush family, I'm sure they've ignored you over this, but have you had any response whatsoever from the government or anyone involved closely with the Bush family regarding your accusations?
Other than someone trying to kill me on a few separate occasions, no one has actually contacted me and requested more information or anything like that.
Interesting. What have you done with the pictures?
Well, I have spoken with the FBI before about the identification of the anthrax killer in 2001, and about the information about the San Francisco Zodiac killer and the identity of the Boston Strangler. And according to what I was told, all the photos, they're all one and the same, Dr. Joseph Mengele, who is still alive, who's a CIA assassin. His name is Stephen Rabel, R-A-B-E-L, and he's the one responsible for the anthrax in 2001, and being the Boston Strangler, and with a totally different MO being the San Francisco Zodiac. And it's interesting.
I'm sure. Do you think, though, from what Skorzeny said about Mengele, I don't know how in-depth he got with him, no one could do these crimes that you're talking about without protection. So he must have been protected.
Well, the police are corrupt. Yeah, there's lots of corrupt police up in the Boston Police Department. They have lots of plants working there, and they follow a mandate. You know, if someone tells them something, the government puts down the mandate that, no, you don't follow this lead, follow some other lead, and they do it. The Vallejo police and the San Francisco police do. There was corruption going on there, and bribes and mandate following, and that's why he's never been caught. They refuse to admit that Nazis are still alive. Basically, he's what they call a spook employee, which someone who works for the government and they deny he exists. But he definitely does exist, and he's a killer, and he's still out there killing.
And this is a great way to spread fear amongst the people, to claim that the people, as I use the quote, people are going crazy, are killers, are serial killers. And that's why you see maybe the rise of serial killing in America. I mean, if you look at other countries, you don't see as many, and it makes sense to me that, you know, this could be the case. I mean, we never really get to the truth, to really what goes on in these killings, like we could talk about Virginia Tech. That's another one of their, what I call, according to many people who agree with me, just another one of their PSYOPs operations that is quickly forgotten about, but remembered in the souls of America. And until we get these guys out of there, we're going to be faced with more and more of this. Do you agree?
Oh, 100%. That's the problem. The enemy is within. It's within our country. It's within the government. President, dictator George W. Bush is the worst terrorist I can think of. He's doing the worst for America and the best for foreign countries and big business and oil. He really doesn't care about American citizens nor about the Constitution. He does what he wants to do, unfortunately.
Well, unfortunately, what the problem is, too, if we go a little bit deeper, is that the Congress that supports him and acts as if they don't are just as big a traitors as George Bush, because they know the whole story, every one of them. I'm not singling out, there's not one senator or congressman in our country who's going to stand up against these people, and I'll tell you why, because they will not stand up against the Vatican. They know they're paid by them. They know if they do, they'll be killed or shut up, and so they just take this position of lukewarm, what I call a traitor of our Constitution, of our government, of our people, and every one of them should be thrown out. And Ron Paul, Cynthia McKinney, none of these guys get any of my support or leeway as an American citizen, because if they can't figure this out, then either they're stupid and shouldn't be there, or they're traitors. It's that simple. What do you think about that?
Well, I think about that 100%. One thing I want to bring to the public's attention is that after World War II, America signed a surrender agreement. Actually, Germany signed two agreements. One called the Rheims-France agreement, and then the next day they signed the Berlin agreement. All right, on the front page of the Rheims-Germany surrender agreement, the date of 1945 has been smudged off and erased. So that evidences that Germany, in fact, did not surrender to America. But the next day, when they surrendered to the Russians, there is a date on there on the Berlin surrender agreement of 1945. Well, after the signing of the Rheims Accord, the Soviet Chief of Staff, General Alexei Antonov, expressed concern that the continued fighting in the east between Germany and the Soviet Union made the Rheims surrender look like a separate piece. And they don't acknowledge the Rheims surrender agreement. The Russians don't. They said that the Berlin document has significant changes from the one signed a day earlier at Rheims. So basically what happened, the whole SS Gestapo, which was basically Nazi Germany, after World War II, merged with our Americans, the whole OSS, to form the CIA, to help us defeat the Russians. And people have heard about Operation Paperclip, where the Americans brought over Nazi rocket scientists like Werner von Braun. But most people don't know that in addition to rocket scientists, they also brought over war criminals, all the terrorists, the death camp guards, and the whole SS Gestapo. They gave gave them all fake American IDs. They gave them jobs in the CIA. All the gay ones, they gave jobs in the FBI, became part of Hoover's G-men, or gay men. That's another thing a lot of people don't know about, but that's the truth about Hoover's G-men. And since then, the FBI, they follow mandates from the CIA and the White House, and the main mandate is that all Nazis are dead, and they're all good, basically. And the reason they're doing that, they want to keep George Herbert Walker Bush and his identity, that he was, in fact, a Nazi spy and a traitor, and he was comrades with all these Nazi war criminals. They want to keep that from the American public. They don't want anyone to know about that. But basically, the president... I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, and I agree with you totally, and even in a more, just a documented note on our congressional record, if it's in our congressional record about the Bush family being Nazi traitors, why doesn't anyone in the Democratic Party or anybody in our government ever make this an issue? The reason is they all work together. And until we get them all out, we are going to be basically subjected to another Nazi Germany rule in the coming years, and they know it. And we need to use our force, and I mean that intelligent force, and I don't mean physical force, to expose them for what they are. And Eric, you've done a magnificent job of recounting a story that you, as an American citizen, just happened to fall into by going out with Lori. It's incredible. But tell us, and we got about a minute here, how hard is it to get this story out?
It's very difficult. I've submitted my manuscript to several different publishers. Most are controlled by the New World Order, neocons, or the Christian right wing. They control a lot of publishers, and a lot of them are afraid of it. It's anti-Bush. It goes against what the history books say, and they're afraid of it. Some have actually told me to write romance novels because people like to read romance novels.
Hey, they told me to do the same thing when I got fired from my last radio show about exposing what we're talking about, including the evil Vatican, the V word. We don't talk about it. Eric, we're all out of time. Thanks for being on the show. I'll have you on again. See you again.
Okay, so that interview concluded, and that evening I remember I brought on someone that I only used their first name, Debbie, and I did a number of interviews. Well, this was the third part of interviews I did, and she professed to be in a satanic cult. Thought I might just play that for two reasons. One, I can't quite remember what Debbie said, and two, I thought you might be interested. Here we go.
We've talked before. This would be a part 3 interview with Debbie over the last 2 or 3 years. And Debbie comes from a small town in Missouri, and Debbie was a child victim of a satanic cult. Now, the real interesting thing, and I've always tried to draw this connection, was that we all watch a lot of movies about Satan. We all watch a lot of movies about serial killers, about different things. But the reason I bring Debbie on is to make a connection that in real life, there's knowledge of these satanic cults in our law enforcement, in our CIA, and our FBI, and also knowledge in the Vatican. And the reason I talk about satanic cults is because when I was a young journalist back in Rome, I met some women that were subjected to witnessing child sacrifices in the catacombs of the Vatican. I reported upon that, and I've kept those stories close to me because I think that's really where this whole thing begins. It begins in Rome with a sick group of people over the centuries of our life who have dedicated their life to Satan. Now, when I talk about the people that I've met who have been involved in satanic cults, it's easy to dismiss them as just basically people who ran into crazy people in our society that have caused this. But the reason for bringing on Debbie is to show that even in America, this is not just a random incident of crazy citizens, but a controlled and organized system to bring down and kill people and also to bring them under their satanic fear. With the help and complicity of local law enforcement, county law enforcement, state law enforcement, federal law enforcement, and, of course, the CIA. Debbie, how are you tonight?
Fine, how are you?
I hope that was a good introduction, because a lot of time people, people that listen to these stories immediately dismiss them and say, oh, you met some crazy people who started worshiping Satan. But I think your story as a child, when you grew up in Missouri, tells a different story about how it was organized, how the police allowed this to go on. And this is one thing that Americans need to understand, because what your story does is it brings it up to the highest level. And I have traced it to the Vatican, all the way down through the White House, through the pedophile rings, through all this sickness. And, if it was just random people, okay, we can then know who the enemy is. But when it isn't, we need to start pinpointing it. And I think your story illustrates that. Tell us what happened to you as a child. Go ahead.
Well, when I was a little girl, they saw that I had some talent. I could sing and dance, and I had psychic power. And I don't like that term actually, but I carried my Bible around. I swore revenge on the people, and the Nazis are good about recording everything, just a thing they do. What I didn't know when I was a little girl, I really couldn't read and write yet, but I swore revenge anyway. I was always hot-tempered and Bible thumper, And so the footage was getting back to Hollywood, what people in this country don't realize, because what I'm telling you is not secret, but our government has not allowed it to be made public yet. Too bad, it needs to be.
Before we get into this, and I want to get you back, just when you were a child, what happened to you?
The Nazis drove me up because they've seen the potential to make money. They grabbed up people in Hollywood. They grabbed up people in the music world. If they saw potential to keep people in a trap and get money from them, even if it was kids and the prostitution and the pornography, they grabbed them up. They got me because they saw some talent. We were always told there was no...
What happened to your parents? Or what was going on?
I had a single mother, and she had a lot of problems. Some people are strong-minded, some people are weak-minded. He was not a strong-minded person. She did not know what to do. But when you have law enforcement that you turn to and they're involved in what is going on with your child, there's not really anything you can do, So there I was given to one family, and my twin sister, Barbara, was given to the Epps family, and that was another local satanic family. She ended up being forced into prostitution by the time she was 8 years old. But we were raped and beat all our life. They would take her in front of Mother's house, and she'd be dressed up in her little hooker clothes and make her walk back and forth, and of course it broke Mother's heart, and take me in front of Mother's house and punch me in the nose, and so my mother had to see blood, Us kids that was treated that way was the ones that refused to just join them, because this is what they want. They want you to get tired of the abuse and just join up and be one of them. And some of us little ones just swore we would rather get beat up,
Right.
So
this took place in where in Missouri, so we know exactly what we're talking about.
Butler County, Missouri is kind of right on the Arkansas line. We're near the Big Hill.
Okay.
So that's where I grew up at.
What time frame are we talking about now? Go back.
I was born in 55.
Okay.
These people were well established when I got along. They are Nazi. They're Satanists, but they're Nazi, all the same thing. Some people don't realize that, but it is. Let me tell you a little bit about some of the famous people that was brought through here when I was a little girl, the time I was in junior high, people that I met. Jack Elam is the first person that I can remember ever meeting.
Who was that?
Jack Elam.
Okay.
I was in Western. And he picked me up and danced me around the dance floor. I was a little girl. Elvis came too. I met him a few times. The Beatles. B.B. King, John Hooker, Rolling Stones, Carly Simon. And then I met other people too, but not in Butler County. Bill Murray, Susie Top, Frank Zappa.
You were just a kid then, right?
Yeah, but I met other people after I got to Texas too. Phil Collins and Mark Stewart and other people.
Now, what is the significance of meeting them? What are you talking about?
Okay, these are people that the Nazis had in their grip that they brought through the county, and for what reason I don't know, but this was a headquarters, and so some of us teenage girls was hanging around with the guys, and we had a secret system going, and we were gathering up evidence, and we didn't know how many years it would take before we could ever expose these people. We didn't have a government to turn to, so I'd understand that, you know. It wasn't just a matter of we didn't have people in our county. We didn't have people in our state. We didn't have people in our federal government. Because the Nazis, and that's what they are, they're Satanists. You can call them what you want, but it's all the same thing. They had infiltrated all of our departments. If you replace the DEPT with Nazi, it's the same thing because they infiltrated every type of department.
Now, of course, you're talking right now from a lot of years of reflecting on what happened to you as a child. But tell us, and I want to get back, before we get into why you met these people, maybe you don't really know why, but what really happened in those homes you were at to lead you to believe, or to make you run from these people? I know you did. What was going on then? Just think of yourself back when you were a child. What was happening back then?
I can remember my nerves being so bad. It literally was hard to think. They kept us on drugs. I was told that I was on cocaine and later on birth control. I won't never know everything they give me. They give us shots. I've had as many as 5 shots on my hip and didn't never know who put them there or when. They brought me in the house to rape me. I was a slave. All of us that are money makers for them are slaves. My case was always a little bit different because they didn't get the money that they thought they were going to get. Because everything we did, we locked up the master copy to make sure they didn't get it. Every day we had to be beat up, we had to be raped all the time.
Okay, we're all out of time, and I remember, vaguely, now I remember Debbie, and I brought her on a few times because I had a lot of questions about her stories. And I remember never being able to verify some things. I always try to take people at face value. I remember I wouldn't put her on unless there was some validity to it. However, in this case, I never really did get to the bottom of it. So, I just thought I would play that, and it brought back another memory of that how I was doing interviews back then. But anyway, back tomorrow on the Investigative Journal. Thanks for stopping by.
The book of Revelation says, "The spirit of prophecy is the testimony of Jesus Christ." This is at the very heart of FirstAmendmentRadio.com. In that spirit, we have created the Prophecy Reality News app for all of your mobile devices, streaming First Amendment Radio 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Available for your Apple, Android device, and smartphone, absolutely free. Get the Prophecy Reality News app installed today so you can listen to First Amendment Radio wherever you are. The Prophecy.
Since the beginning of time, kings have sought it, nations have fought for it. It has been traded, it has been borrowed, it has been purchased, it has been stolen. There's a reason for it. To secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and to our posterity. Invest with the security of gold and silver. Call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188 or visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net. Listen to Financial Survival with your host Melody Cedarstrom right here on FirstAmendmentRadio.com at 4 p.m. Eastern or 1 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net or call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188. Toll free 1-800-375-4188.